This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News, news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
And welcome, family, to another wonderful edutainment edition of the Artivist Presents We All Be News and Radio. I'm your host for the empowerment segment, Brother Ron, also known as R2, C2H2 the Artivist, and welcome to the We All Be movement. That's right, boys and girls, scholars and laymen. This is your time. This is our time. It's nation time. It's movement time on We All Be. Today's subject or topic is Black August Days of Summer with Brother Ron, Part 1. Once again, boys and girls, scholars and laymen, Black August Days of Summer with Brother Ron, Part 1. As you know, if you don't know, now you know, or you're about to know, that Black August is actually the second Black History Month. This is our month. This is our time. If you're a person of color, if you're a melanated person, this is the month of Black Revolution. This weekend marked August 21st to the 23rd. August 21st to the 23rd marked the anniversary of the Nat Turner resurrection or insurrection or rebellion. I said resurrection. Well, he was very religious. He was a minister. But the Nat Turner rebellion in Southampton, Virginia. That's Nat Turner, who was a black preacher born into slavery, who felt he was called by God to liberate his people by any means necessary. It started August 21st. It ended August 23rd, 1831. And before the end of the year, before it was out, Nat Turner was hanged by the neck till dead, I believe. Let me say October of 1831, I believe. Let me get it right. But, you know, there's a lot of things. Also on August 23rd marked the 98th anniversary of the Houston race riot of 1917. This was when some brothers in uniform, some black soldiers rebelled against the system. They said, fuck the police. After the police beat up one of their own when he was trying to intervene in the arrest and the assault of a black woman in the 4th Ward of Houston, Texas. He got beat the hell up, and then one of their own checked in on him. He got beat the hell up and shot at 3 times by the popos down in Houston. And his brother said, the hell with that, we're going to march on these MEmphis. So you had black soldiers fighting back against the white power structure in uniform. They were court-martialed. 19 was sentenced to death by hanging. I call it by lynching. And then by over 40 plus was sentenced to life in prison. So that happened on August 23rd, 1917, the largest murder trial in U.S. history. This is not OJ. This is bigger than OJ. This is OJ on steroids, y'all. This is bigger than Scottsboro Boys. This is bigger than all that. But it's been forgotten about. And it was hanged. And basically, you know, people, white folks thought there was justice. And it's really just us. And then you had like the Monday before, about a Monday ago, about a week ago, you had the Life Affirmation Day celebration of one Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who's the greatest black mass leader we ever produced. Sorry, brother Farrakhan. Sorry, brother. Put in the blank. But Marcus Garvey was the one. He was the greatest mass black leader that we produced. And he was mentored by none other than Booker T. Washington, who passed away 100 years ago this year. So this is an incredible year in terms of numbers, in terms of numerology, in terms of a lot of things. Of course, we got the Justice or Else, the 20th anniversary of the March on Washington coming up on 10/10/15. That's October the 10th, 1915. That's Minister Farrakhan. He was in Memphis promoting that. I'm also going to touch upon that as well. My thoughts about Minister Farrakhan's visit to Memphis. It's very interesting. And also some other things. But this is to Black August. If you don't know, now you know. And I haven't even touched on everything that we could touch upon as we talk about Black August. But I just want to do a show. Actually, I'm going to do a show every day this week. And it'll be better promoted. So feel free, family. If you want to call in, feel free to call in. Area code 646-652-4593. Once again, that's area code 646 652-4593 if you're scared to get on the air. Just type in, well, I guess I'll open up the chat room. I don't know anybody that want to chatty catty. I didn't really do a good job of promoting this show. But if anybody want to chat out there, we'll hold the room open. And let me know if you can hear me or not. I just try to make sure I upgrade my quality of my sound. I'm very, I'm trying to become a better steward of the sound because the message is so important. And you speak about the message and the messenger. Like I said, we had the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He came to the city of Good Abode August 19th through the 20th. He had a keynote address at the Cannon Center, which should have been the Mason Temple. It should have been Mason Temple when the late great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his last speech. We know it as the mountaintop speech, but that's because of white supremacy. Because every time Dr. King says something of substance, they want to put on his speech a title of fluffiness, of fluff. Not anything of value, more fluffy. Tastes great, less filling, sort of thing. But the actuality was that the mountaintop speech was about black empowerment, black economics, black nationalism, black pride. Because in that speech, he told black folks to get their money out of white-owned banks and insurance companies and start investing in black-owned banks and insurance companies. He was telling black folks to boycott Wonders Bread, Hearts Bread, Coca-Cola. Boycott the place that would take your black dollars but won't give you a job. Like the paraphrase where he said, what good is it to sit at a lunch counter if you can't afford to eat the hamburger? If you can't afford to buy the hamburger to eat, black folks, we gotta get in that mindset because yes, Mr. Farrakhan did a couple of things. He did some radio shows, some interviews. He had a panel, one panel for Memphis leadership, the first panel, which was on Wednesday, August the 19th. He had a panel discussion with Memphis leadership that includes the clergy and elected public officials. And also he had a second panel discussion. I won't call him panel. He had a talks because, Minister Farrakhan, he really, once he started talking, you ask him one question, then you're not going to get another word in for a while. Just like with Brother Baba Dick Gregory. These are both brilliant brothers, brilliant in their 80s, very alert, very on point, but it's hard to get a word in with these type of titans. When they begin to move, they don't stop moving until they're ready to stop moving, and they don't stop talking until they're ready to stop talking. And it's not necessarily a bad thing because they got so much to share. But yeah, he had two talks, one with the Memphis leadership and public officials, clergy, whatever, at around noon. And the second one was at 4 o'clock. With hip-hop artists and people from their ilk. I attended the one at 4 o'clock. I'm not a hip-hop artist, but I am an artist. And I think the reason why he focused on the hip-hop artists, because you see their influence. Of course, hip-hop is really a big part of this culture now, rap music. And he was talking about how rappers have such some of them have followings bigger than his, and they have such an influence on the way we view the world and how we view ourselves. And he's just trying to reignite in them their purpose of knowing that you got a responsibility and accountability to the people, that the people must, be fed by the rapper. They must be uplifted by the rapper, and he was, like him himself, his background, he's a classically trained violinist and also he's a calypso singer. Before he joined the nation was, singing and stuff and doing calypso, just like Harry Belafonte. Day-o. So he also had Minister Farrakhan had a song out back in the day when he was with the nation. They called the white man's heaven is a black man's hell. And I really like that song, and I think he did an update of that song back in the 80s with a symphony or orchestra or whatever. They're both pretty nice versions, but I like the raw calypso style version from the early days as well. And the minister has such a stage presence about himself. He's not only just a religious leader, but also he's a person that understands the theater of the moment. He's very much an actor, very much a thespian in terms of his stage presence. He has such great stage presence, very commanding figure, diction, all that stuff, everything together. So he understands the value of presentation. He's looking sharp, black don't crack, minister looking very good, for his age of 82 years young. he don't look 82 years young. And you know, he's moving, he's vigorous, he's in that moment. So he's just as much a lecturer, I mean, as an entertainer as he is a lecturer. I call it infotainment or edutainment. And cause he understand our people. It's like with Brother Malcolm, you know, before he get down and serious into the matter of his speech and his message, he would help musicians like jazz musicians and actors to perform before he did his things. Like if you went to a rally in Harlem back in the 50s or early 60s, and Malcolm, so it wouldn't be surprising to see somebody like Abbey Lincoln singing, or Max Roach performing, or Charles Mingus, somebody like that from the jazz and in the entertainment field. Matter of fact, Malcolm at one point used to be a jazz drummer. You know, he used to hang around people like Billie Holiday. Hey, my man, I love him. He my man. Billie Holiday. Matter of fact, you know, Malcolm at one point used to be a dishwasher at a place called Jimmy's Chicken Shack in East Harlem. And guess who was his fellow dishwasher? Red Fox. That's right, boys and girls, scholars and laymen. The one and only, you big old dummy. Red Fox was Malcolm X's good friend and also fellow dishwasher at Jimmy's Chicken Shack, which also at one point employed people like Attn and Charlie Parker as entertainers. You know, I think Charlie Parker used to play there. He used to eat all the chicken he want. That's why they call him Yardbird. He loved the chicken. Yardbird. You know, anyway. Yeah. So, and that's another thing I like to tell people. A lot of our great black leaders, most of them have entertainment or media backgrounds. Like all of them, you know, understood the value of media, of telling your own story. Of course, Brother Malcolm X went on, you know, he went on to start the Muhammad Speaks, the first paper for the Nation of Islam. My understanding had a circulation of 500,000 readers nationwide. So you had about 500,000 black folks reading his newspaper daily that he started, or weekly, excuse me, that he started with the Nation of Islam, Muhammad Speaks. You look at somebody like Marcus Garvey. He had the Negro World. He had his own paper. You know, Ida B. Wells had a Free Speech and Headlight in Memphis, Tennessee. Brother Frederick Douglass had the North Star. But it goes on and on. They all understood the value of the media, and a lot of them had entertainment backgrounds. I just told you about Calypso with Louis Farrakhan, and also, you know, I just told you about Malcolm X, his connection to the entertainment industry and some of the icons of that industry. And if you look at somebody like even activists, like, you know, well-known entertainer activists, political activists like Paul Robeson, one of our big trees in our forest, like very unsung, very underappreciated Paul Robeson, who was a mentor to people like Harry Belafonte, another, you know, unsung, very conscious entertainer who did a lot for the advancement of his people. But you look at all that stuff, you take all that in. Josephine Baker, I remember Eartha Kitt, reading my Eartha Kitt when she confronted Lady Bird Johnson during the escalation in Vietnam back in the 60s. Lady Bird Johnson was so pissed off by Eartha Kitt. You know, we talk about Kanye West and what he did when he said George Bush doesn't care about black people, which happened during a fundraising awareness for the Hurricane FEMA Katrina fiasco down in New Orleans. But this sister confronted, you know, Lady Bird Johnson in the White House, face to face. She said some things about the war and the president, and got her blackballed from America for years. You know, Kanye's still here making money, making hell of money in many ways. Married to a Kardashian that makes money. But Eartha Kitt was banned from performing and making a living in America for years after their confrontation in the White House. Or you think about the fact that, you know, Satchmo Armstrong was born August the 4th. When Little Rock 9 happened down in Little Rock, and them little black boys and girls could go to school with the white folks, and they asked Louis to do a state-sponsored concert tour, and Louis Armstrong said, if he can't protect my people, if I can't protect my people, go to hell, Ike. Louis Armstrong said that back in the 50s. He told the president to go to hell. You know, if you can't protect my people down in Little Rock getting their heads bashed and getting spit on by some evil racist crackers, then you go to hell, Mr. President, with all due respect. Not just you don't care about black people, you can go to hell. You can go to hell. Okay, I'm trying to sound like Samuel Jackson. But anyway, I'm just showing you the activism, entertainment, and black liberation all connected. You know, You think about Lorraine Hansberry, who wrote A Raisin for the Sun, or Raisin in the Sun, or Sidney Poitier. A lot of people did things behind the scenes. Sammy Davis Jr. gave a lot to the movement. And of course, our good friend, Baba Dick Gregory, who literally put in millions into the movement. As a matter of fact, he was the inspiration for Freedom Summer, according to some of the people that was involved in it, like Bob Moses, because of what he did the year before when the state cut off the welfare benefits to the poor residents of Greenwood, Mississippi, black people. He actually chartered a plane filled with food and supplies to give it to the people down there on his own. I believe that Hugh Hefner helped him with that, helped him, get a plane or whatever, and some stuff. But anyway, that's stuff that we should be knowing, we should amplify, but we don't, because a lot of us don't have any knowledge of self. A lot of our own elders don't have the knowledge to pass this on, which is unfortunate. So it should be passed on, and this is why it's so important to support We All Be and what we're trying to do here to spread the love and spread the message of self-love, of knowledge of self. And please feel free, family. If you want to donate, please feel free to donate, because we accept all love donations. You can go to our PayPal link. If you listen to this, there's a way to find the PayPal link. I'll put up a video later, and the link will be up on the subscription on YouTube, whatever. And even you listen to this to Blog Talk Radio, we got the donation link posted with this podcast, as well as you can mail in a money order if you don't want to go online. But yeah, so getting back to Farrakhan, he came to Memphis. He really had, what I like about Farrakhan, it seems like, regardless what people say about Mr. Farrakhan or Minister Farrakhan and things like that, is that I think he does have a sincere love for black people. I really do. I think, even Al Sharpton has a love for his people. But you got to understand this system of white supremacy, racism. I mean, we dealing with so much like programmed self-hate as a people. So much confusion. A lot of us are afraid right now. And that fear is doing horrible things to our psyche, to our spirit, and to our physical. So we are a sick people right now. Now, I don't like when people say, well, these people are racist, they sick. No. Racists are not sick. They are ideologists. This is their ideology. This is not a sickness, this is their religion. White supremacy, racism is a religion, an ideology, a way of life. It's nothing sick about it, but sick about it as it relates to black folks, that black folks think that they're going to get a fair shake in a system meant to control and undermine them, meant to cut them off at the knees. So you have no benefit of keeping this type of system alive if you are a person of color, regardless of your status, i.e. Bill Cosby. Because one day you a country club nigga, and the next day you're a field nigga, if you're not a dead nigga. So really, we are living in a reality that is dependent upon our being so subservient and being complacent in our own lynching, in our own enslavement. This is what's going on right now. To quote the First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, you can only make me feel inferior with my consent. Once again, you can only make me feel inferior with my consent. So when I see brothers and sisters with the hashtag Black Lives Matter, which is nothing wrong with that, but who do Black Lives Matter to? Is it black people? Are you trying to convince yourself that your life has value in a system of white supremacy, racism? Are you trying to convince white folks to love you or sometimes like you? What is this thing? Because Marcus Garvey understood 100 years ago. Booker T. Washington understood 100 years ago. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad understood 50, 60 years ago that we must do for self. Self-love. Do for self. My people perish because of lack of self. Lack of knowledge of self, Not just knowledge, because we get this idea about knowledge being, just some arithmetic, reading and writing. I'm talking about a very profound understanding of who you are, where you came from, and what your purpose is in this paradigm. That's what I'm talking about with knowledge of self. So we got to understand that loud and clear. So, there's a lot of contradictions among us, and that this system helps to amplify and also create. So the system creates conflict, contradictions, and all types of stuff among us as a people, as well as individuals. So when people tell me, well, Brother Ron, or when I read what people say, how can I respect Louis Farrakhan and Malcolm X at the same time? It's easy. It's easy to respect anybody, regardless of their profession, regardless of their conflict. You know, like they say, one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. It's all about perception and perspective. Perception, perspective. You know, your reality, what you believe it to be, or what you think it to be. You know, everybody got their own version of reality. We got, in the United States, we got almost 350 million versions of reality. At least, you know, we're not talking about people with multiple personalities disorders or schizophrenia. So we got possibly maybe a billion different realities in this one country, or so-called country. Really is a republic, really is a corporation. But that's another show for another day. But how do you form your reality? On what basis? Is it religion? Is it the media? For some people, the media is the religion. Because like what Malcolm told us 50 years ago, it's the most powerful entity on the planet because it influences and shapes the minds of the masses. So when I hear black folks say, well, we got a problem with Louis Farrakhan with the minister, I don't like Minister Farrakhan. Why you don't like him? Have you ever met Minister Farrakhan? Have you ever sat in the same room with Minister Farrakhan and hear him speak unedited? You know, I ain't talking about the commercial appeal, because this is another thing. You know, Minister Farrakhan spoke at the Cannon Center, and the Nation of Islam did not allow, from my understanding, Memphis top newspaper, quote unquote, top, the commercial appeal to witness his historic speech and occasion. They would not allow men. So the writer for the commercial appeal, I believe one Jody Callahan, I believe that's the person's name, they said that several hundred people attended the event. First of all, how you know how many people attended if you was not allowed to be in there? Another thing, from my understanding, is that the Cannon Center can hold 2,100 people comfortably. It can hold 2,100 people comfortably. I was there. I had a great seat. I was in the second row from the podium, from the stage where the minister spoke. It was standing room only inside that big place. Nice place. I mean, matter of fact, we had people outside in the lobbies in the overflow room. It was packed, right? Then you had a line that stretched for blocks around the Cannon Center. So what they tell you, I mean, there was more than 700 people in there, but I just told you it was a maximum capacity of 2,100 that could fit in that auditorium. Then I tell you what, people standing up by the hundreds, if not thousands, in the lobby. Then I tell you people was outside and they had to turn people away because the fire marshal would not allow any more people. So they actually had to turn away people from Farrakhan speaking because the fire marshal would not allow more people to get in there. So what they tells you, it was easily over 3,000 people in that vicinity. That is more. If you say several hundred, I'm thinking 200, 300 people. But when you say several thousand, so you know what I'm saying? That's the media. That's the white power structure media. And black folks believe these narratives from these type of places all the time. It's like you look at the news on TV and people talking about what is so negative. Well, it's an old saying in the business. If it bleeds, it leads. So therefore, negativity attracts people like flies are attracted by shit. And I remember one time when I was going somewhere in the morning during a rush hour, the traffic was slow in front of me. I'm trying to figure out why the traffic was slow. It's because a lot of times people, they were looking at an accident across the way. And I'll never forget this. A guy was on his phone looking at the accident in front of me. He was so busy looking at the accident and talking on the phone that he ran his car to the back of the front car that was in front of him. That he ran his car into the bumper of the car in front of him and caused another accident. He was so busy being distracted, looking at what already occurred, that doesn't even, bother him or includes him or affects him. And he became affected because he became distracted. And he ended up hitting the person in front of him. So this is what we do every day. They put out these distractions, these optical illusions, or all this other stuff they do, reality TV shows, whatever you want to call them. And you preoccupied with amusement and entertainment, while at the same time, they're very much taking away the things that are essential to a certain quality of life for our people. So while you busy looking over there, they doing shit over here. You understand? So this is the game and the game they play. But getting back to the media representation, yes, the white commercial appeal paper, which black folks work there, but black folks ain't really making the decisions in that paper. Best believe in white supremacy, racism. You might have black faces, but black faces ain't making the final decision on anything. So with that said, yeah, the commercial appeal went out there and said, well, it was just several hundred people, which is a lie. It was several thousand people, and not only from Memphis, but around the, the region, and even outside of the southeast region or the mid-south, outside the mid-south. Yeah, folks, I heard they came all the way from Oregon, who was already in town, I guess, for other things, but they decided to hear the minister. And that's another thing. It was not promoted like it should have been in the quote-unquote corporate media outlets in Memphis. It was the best kept secret, it seems. And but yet people piled up because of social media. Social media, I mean, that's a beast. Word of mouth. No matter how much technology you have and advancements you make in technology and everything, word of mouth is word of mouth. Word of mouth was powerful when Jesus was walking around the earth, allegedly, and word of mouth is still powerful today when the Minister Farrakhan is making this tour around the country to promote justice or else. So, social media, and the one thing about the Nation of Islam, they're very savvy when it comes to that. They got a lot of brothers and sisters tweeting and utilizing social media to connect with the people. And Farrakhan is such a master, like I say, he's such a master presenter. He know how to connect with the young people and connect with people, period, because of his engaging and exciting presentations. Farrakhan is the type of person that you can actually listen to him. Well, I can listen to him for hours and not get tired of listening to him because he's a master storyteller. He's a master griot. He understands his role in the community in order to relay in that history, relay that story to create that reality. And, I think a lot of times, I wonder about my people, do we really understand what you're saying? Because you've been preaching long enough. And, you tend to repeat yourself when you're preaching. Because how many sermons you can really make while repeating yourself? It's like with Master Bible Dick Gregory. People say, well, he repeats himself. Well, sometimes the reason why he do that because he might be talking to folks that never heard, which you might take for granted. See, that's another thing when people say, well, so-and-so be repeating himself. I said, well, you evidently you didn't get it the first time what he was saying. Because if you got the first time what he was saying, number one, you won't be listening to him for the umpteenth time saying it. And it was and another thing, if we actually did some of the things that these people have been telling us, these quote-unquote wise men been telling us, then we wouldn't be having these justice or else rallies. We'll be having this police brutality stuff. It's tripping me out with the intellectual masturbation in our community. When I talk about black folks, people say, well, I got the Dr. Clyde Anderson books and I got the Hidden Color series and stuff like that. But you're not looking at it as a blueprint for action to create a better life for you and your loved ones. You look at it as just as entertainment, as an escape, like looking at reality TV like Love and Hip Hop and things like that. I'm not gonna even knock on Love and Hip Hop and OWN and all this stuff, Tyler Perry. That's not my job. But what it is like, you let me know that we are in the last days of empire. And instead of people dealing with the reality of what's happening in empire, they rather watch empire on TV and be in a fantasy world where they don't really exist like that. Because trust me, black folks ain't calling shots like that, like they do in empire. It's an illusion of inclusion. It's an illusion of inclusion. And because white supremacists are masters of illusion. They're not keepers of the flame or keepers of the truth. They are the masters of illusion. So we got to remember that. So when Farrakhan, like I said, why do certain black folks have issues with Farrakhan? Where do you get your news and information about Farrakhan? All of these things about Farrakhan coming from, white-owned media, white power-owned media outlets or corporate media, or what is the agenda? Because everybody has an agenda, So that's what we need to focus on. Where do you get your news and information when it pertains to people like us? Malcolm told us the power of the media to make your friends your enemy and your enemies your friends. And, a lot of times, also people don't do enough reading as well because there's enough information. One thing about the internet, you can do enough research on Minister Farrakhan, on anybody, on any subject matter, and come to your own conclusion, your own well-informed opinion or perspective on that personal subject. Because Minister Farrakhan has so many speeches. Like I just got through looking at the famous Donahue interview he did when he first went on Donahue. And, and I missed those type of shows. I remember when I was a little kid, I used to look at Phil Donahue, along with Gerardo and Oprah. And this is before Oprah and them started doing what they started doing. This is before Jerry Springer came on the scene. Like Jerry Springer was the NWA of talk shows. Maybe not more than Downey Jr. Morton Downey Jr. I remember him. He was the NWA of talk shows. I don't know. But Phil Donahue was very what I like about him is what Phil Donahue represented what TV could have been. But it's an idiot box. It's not meant to be that. You know, Phil Donahue actually had guests and tackled subject matter that was very engaging, that was very enriching. And I respect the fact he had the minister on several times and gave him the proper platform to present his ideas. Even had on brother Dr. Khalid Muhammad, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, and some other folks. And a lot of these folks, even there's some black folks to this day that's older than me, never heard of Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, which is kind of interesting. And it made me understand why a lot of young people are in the shape they're in. Because you got some of the so-called elders and older people, they have no clue about what's going on. Like, to paraphrase Nilla Fuller, if you don't understand white supremacy, racism, then you're going to be able to understand none of this shit that's going down right now. Because you keep on saying, you the type of person probably say, well, you know, black folks being racist too. No black person be racist. I meet some brilliant, insightful folks, but black folks cannot be racist. We could be hateful. We could be prejudiced. We could be biased. Those are human traits. You know, even when Phil Donahue had on Minister Farrakhan the first time, and just the ignorance allowed by white folks due to white privilege. And I heard the reaction from the crowd to Minister Farrakhan. And Minister Farrakhan, he is talking about the Kerner report. He giving you facts and figures. He giving you places where he got the information from. He just all over the place. Brilliant presentation, very patient, very engaging and charming and informative. Yet the the white people in the audience were tripping me out because they kept on, talking about their feelings and they're not racist. I have black friends and all this. So why are you so angry? See, white supremacy allows white privilege. It allows white people to not feel for other people outside of their privilege zone. White folks are not obligated to empathize with black folks, to understand where black folks coming from, because their systemic privilege allows them a barrier, a buffer against black pain, against black rage, against black oppression. And they could be decent folks, but they have benefited from the oppression and the repression and the enslavement and the exploitation of black people and the cheapness of black life in this system. They have benefited from that. So I don't understand, I do understand. I just told you, their ignorance is supported by white privilege. It's not going to affect them either way if they learn about your plight as a black person or don't learn about your plight as a black person. That's why I say this thing, in this system, all white people are racist. And people say, well, Ron, what do you mean by that? I'm not saying everybody got to be a Klansman or a skinhead or a neo-Nazi or a cop that hate black people. I'm not even saying that. I'm saying that if white people, who you call good white people, and I'm not even able to judge what a good white person is, only other white folks can judge each other like that, as far as I'm concerned. But what I'm saying is, even the good white people don't want to give up their advantages in a system that denies access to their good black friend. That denies their black friends any type of leverage. When people talk about, well, you got affirmative action. Well, you look at it from a statistics point of view, affirmative action has benefited white women more than any other quote unquote minority group. And how can white women become a minority group when they part of the majority? That's the white man's woman. So how she's a minority, yet the group that benefited mostly from affirmative action has been proven to be white women. And who did they use to bring up these affirmative action lawsuits in the Supreme Courts, in the courts? White women were used. It was a white woman that brought up the lawsuit against Michigan University, or the University of Michigan, I believe, whatever, by not getting to law school. Even in Texas, it was a white woman that used white women to bring up these lawsuits about affirmative action. But it's been proven over the last 40, 50 years that the people that benefited mostly from affirmative action have been white women. Now, black men have gotten affirmative jail time. So, how can you explain 13% of the population being 50% of the prison population in the world's largest prison plantation? You got over 25% of the world's prison population in the United States There's, we got more prisons in the United States than they do in China. We talking about gulags up in North Korea and other places, but yet the biggest gulag in the world is in America. And we are okay with people profiteering off of people's misery. We are okay with that as a people, because as long as we have a job and some benefits, as long as there's Walmart in existence, we don't really care how the sausage is made or where it comes from, as long as we get to have the privilege and benefits. So we participate as black people in our own lynching, in our own enslavement, in our own exploitation, because we want to be a part of a system that don't want any parts of us unless it's being put to work for the benefit of white power and to sustain white supremacy and privilege. So white supremacy and racism allows white folks to be ignorant as long as they want about race, and they can still live a very comfortable lifestyle. So black folks, we cannot afford that type of ignorance when it comes to race relations, because it can literally cost us our lives. So that's why I said, why black folks, Black Lives Matter to who? Are you trying to get Hillary Clinton to acknowledge your black life has value? But a lot of us understand that, you don't need nobody else to acknowledge your life has value. You must acknowledge that your life has value. It's like what Dr. John Henry Clark said some years ago. If the person staring back at you don't recognize in that mirror, you don't know who that person is, then God damn it, you have no friends. And black folks got to get out of this mindset of making everybody a friend because they been acknowledged by this person. Just because somebody gave you a donation or they gave you a shout out on the radio, on TV, you feel like, that's my friend. But people don't understand the difference between a friend, an ally, and an associate. Friends, allies, and associates. We must understand the difference because, Russia, was not a friend of America during World War II. They were an ally of America. They were allies against a common enemy, which was Germany, the Axis powers. Now, once World War II ended and the Cold War began, Russia and America, or Soviet Union and United States of America, were enemies. Japan was an enemy of the United States of America during World War II. Then, after World War II, Japan became an economic ally of the United States of America. We had folks in Japanese Americans put in internment camps or concentration camps here in America by FDR back in the 40s. Then, now after the war, Japan's one of the largest economies in the world, was helped to be rebuilt, by collaborating with the United States of America and with the Western economic powers. So I just want y'all to understand what's going on. So where do you get your information about Minister Farrakhan? Have you listened to, like I said, a speech of Minister Farrakhan, or heard him in person? Have you witnessed him in person? Have you talked to folks who was influenced by Minister Farrakhan? And that's why I say you can't let the white control media, white power media, let you have the final say on any brother and sister out here putting in work, regardless of how you may feel about it. And it gets back to when people tell me, when I read about people saying, well, how can you respect both Malcolm X, his mentor? Malcolm was the man that helped mentor Farrakhan. Make no mistake by it, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that was his organization. He was the head, but Malcolm was the man who helped, really put the spotlight on the Nation of Islam. And people got to understand that, people got to give him his props, because he was media savvy. He was forward thinking. Like I said, he started the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. They had no newspaper before Malcolm started that. And Malcolm was on the road, neglecting his family, growing the nation, helping build mosques and whatnot. And he was the national spokesperson for the Nation of Islam. He's very charismatic, handsome, charismatic, articulate, a great spokesperson for any organization. And he understood the power of the media, because it was that documentary called the Hate Produced, which was produced by Mike Wallace and Mike Wallace is a famous black journalist. His name escaped me. Louis Lomax. It was produced by Mike Wallace and Louis Lomax, where they interviewed the Nation of Islam. That's when mainstream America got a good glimpse of Brother Malcolm X, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the Nation of Islam. And white folks been having nightmares ever since. This back in, I think, 1959, I'm not mistaken. But Malcolm really, spent the majority of his life outside of prison. And once he got out of prison, growing the Nation of Islam, and was not allowed the time to properly grow and organize his two organizations, the Organization of Afro-American Unity, the old AAU, and Muslim Mosque Inc. He was not allowed the time to organize his own organizations, but he put his lifeblood into the Nation of Islam. And Malcolm should be acknowledged, regardless of what happened in the end. His contributions to growing the Nation of Islam brand should be acknowledged by people inside and outside the Nation of Islam. And also with the Nation of Islam, which is very interesting. People that read their history, there's just so much stuff out here that you don't need nobody to tell you what to think or feel about anything. You just got to take your time to research for yourself. The Nation of Islam was compromised by government agencies back in those times. This is back in the 50s and 60s. Malcolm was a marked man. They knew about Malcolm X in prison. The government did, The number 2 man in the Nation of Islam, the secretary for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, John Ali, was an FBI agent, informant. And he used to be one of Malcolm's good friends. So he was a guy that was the go-between between Malcolm and Elijah Muhammad during the time of the Great Schism. And they had their falling out. So there's no telling what he put in those letters and correspondence between the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Brother Malcolm X that made them have a falling out. You know what I'm saying? I believe he played a part in that. There's tape online of Malcolm. He was trying to put a tape recorder in his couch or whatever in his living room because the FBI agents would visit Brother Malcolm and try to get him to flip and turn into an informant. And to his credit, he refused to do so. And that's another thing we don't understand is that the FBI visited with everybody. And the FBI was everywhere. Trust me when I say the FBI was everywhere. They was in the car with the Klan when they killed Viola Liuzzo after they did the Selma campaign. They was there when Sworn Chaney Goodman was lynched down in Philadelphia, Mississippi. They always there. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you can't tell the difference between the Klan and the FBI. I remember reading the testimony of Bob Zellner. He was a white snake activist. Matter of fact, he came from a family of Klansmen, but ended up becoming a activist. I think he was from Alabama. But he talked about the time when he was, being attacked by a white mob, him and some of his fellow activists, some of his fellow SNCC members. And his eyeball was actually stretched out the eye socket. I mean, it was gross, but, the eyeball was stretched. He didn't know the human eyeball could stretch that far. And then it went back into place. But the thing about it was, he said right across the street when they're getting their ass beat, was the FBI looking. The FBI told the Klan when the Freedom Riders came to Alabama, how long they had to beat their asses before the police came to break it up. So the FBI, are they friend or foe? Well, if the first black FBI agent was hired to neutralize Marcus Garvey, what the hell you think they are? That's on you to decide. But do the research. I mean, the guy who set up Chairman Fred Hampton Sr., whose birthday is on August 30th, his chief bodyguard, William O'Neill, was FBI informant. And he gave the floor plans to his controller. Controller gave those floor plans. His FBI controller gave the floor plans to the state attorney office, Hannaran, and he gave the Chicago Police Department. We don't take the time to do research, and when you don't take the time to do research, instead of being rewarded, you get punished. You get punished by a system of white supremacy racism if you're a black person. So, with that said, I just told you can look this up. John Ali, National Secretary for the Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad's secretary, was indeed FBI. And my understanding, you had the Nation of Islam was compromised with law enforcement people in there. There's like a lot of organizations, then as well as now. You think about the Liberty City Six, I believe they happened around in the mid 2000s. These poor black brother Muslims down in Liberty City, Florida, a very impoverished neighborhood or a town that's connected to Miami, being set up by an FBI agent undercover. These guys were poor. They could barely get their neighborhood, let alone downtown Miami. And then for them, they have the resources to be able to blow up the Sears Tower and all this bullshit is ridiculous. it was the FBI agent that was undercover that was suggesting these guys do these things, and he had the resources and the contacts to pull it off. But them guys end up taking the fall, and you got a lot of stories like that, around the country, of black people being set up by the government to take the fall in this quote unquote war on terrorism. It really is a war on us. The war on terror began, when we was brought over here on a good ship Jesus. So I just want people to get hip to the game. So you even look at Malcolm's bodyguard, Eugene Roberts. He was NYPD, and he was the guy that set up Phineas Shakur and the rest of the Panther 21. Phineas Shakur, of course, is Tupac Shakur's mom. He was one of the founder members of the New York City chapter of the Black Panther Party, and also he was an undercover police officer. And he was Malcolm X's bodyguard, Eugene Roberts. Look this guy up. So the movement always been compromised by the powers that be. So I just want people to know that, because this is Black August, and we should be acting like we don't know what we should be knowing. Because right now it's a war for information. It's a war for control of your mind. The most valuable real estate, like Chuck D said in the 21st century, is between your ears. It's your mind, and they're gaming for your mind. So I just want people to keep that in mind as we do this thing that we do. So Farrakhan, he talked for almost 3 hours. He mentioned Darrius Stewart, met with the family of Darrius Stewart. I want to touch upon that as well. And one thing I took away from that message, the most important thing, if you get past him talking for 3 hours and for hours on end, or the last 40 hours of his visit here, was we need to boycott Christmas. Boycott Christmas. Boycott Christmas. Music to my ears. I've been boycotting Christmas because I don't buy no presents. I don't buy presents. I don't really care about presents on Christmas, actually. Christmas has always been, I think, to me, really, Christmas is a kid's holiday. You expecting trinkets and whatnot. It's never been about Jesus. Matter of fact, he proved it because he said it was a pagan holiday. And he showed you in the Bible where you can find this information about it, being a pagan holiday. And do your own research on Christmas, what it's really about, on Constantine. And I'm not going to get into all of that, but it's something that, my thing is this. The reason why I do the shows I do, I don't believe in babysitting nobody. What I do believe in is trying to engage you in some type of dialogue or conversation, or impart some information that will get you excited about doing your own research. Because it's nothing like, finding stuff on your own, because it's so empowering when you can, research things on your own and come to your own conclusions and share this information. Because when you come across information, it is your duty as a human being to share what you know as much as you can. And yes, it can be a burden sometimes. I feel like it's burdensome. I tell people, like, Brother Ron, you should interview this person, or you should tell this. I said, no, I don't want to do it because I know I'm going to be responsible for imparting that information to the people. And, I feel like Rodney Dangerfield. Sometimes. I get no respect, but I'm very influential in what I do. And I know that, that's okay. Because a lot of times when you do the work, you end up getting a lot of more criticism than praise. But that comes with the territory. It's like what Brother Malcolm X say, without criticism or critics, you have no success. Without critics, you have no success. Like what Brother Malcolm said. So boycott Christmas. He made it easy in terms of, letting Christian people know, because we're in the Christian belt, we're in the Bible belt, that it's a pagan holiday. And also, people don't realize, when them 4 little girls got blown up in the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama, Dick Gregory and the leadership of the movement, a lot of them wanted to boycott Christmas then. You understand, especially for a lot of people who are cowards. A lot of us are cowards. We don't try to hide behind that non-violence bullshit. And non-violence still getting niggas killed in 2015, and it got niggas killed in 65. Non-violence still getting niggas killed. So we want to hide behind that, we're cowards. But one of the most powerful tools in our tool belt is the boycott. If you look at, we're approaching the 60th anniversary of the Montgomery bus boycott. That boycott lasted 381 straight days. 381 straight days, you had black folks unified and not riding the bus. You had black folks helping other black people. You had a black united front. And people don't understand. That's probably, we talking about the civil rights movement and all this stuff. That's probably one of the most important events in human history. They had that type of solidarity to do it without, firing a shot, without waging a quote unquote a violent war. But the thing about it is that it was successful because you had all these different things working. You had black folks working as a community to make this happen. Like what Dick Gregory always famous to say, we don't live in communities, we live in neighborhoods. But back then you had a community of conservative black folks, and the reason why there was a community was because of Jim Crow, because of separate and unequal. Jim Crow forced the doctors and lawyers to live with the winos and the prostitutes and stuff in the same neighborhood. So as you a black person growing up in that environment, you got role models of all type. And I always tell people, a role model is not always the person who does the right thing. Sometimes the people that do the wrong thing, the most detrimental and harmful things to themselves and other people, could make for the best role models as well too. So but by then you had like different people you could look at in that community. You had a community because we were forced to deal with each other. And that's what people don't understand. The system forced us to deal with each other. And that's why we was able to have that civil rights movement. And the system learned that, hey, we gotta break their community pride. And the best way you could break a community pride is by attacking the community's institutions. And what did they attack? Two institutions: the schools and the black church. They've been attacking the black church ever since. Matter of fact, like I told people, been telling people in my podcast, from a 1 month period this summer, from June the 17th, when the Mother Emanuel 9 were assassinated by white power, all the way up to July the 17th, when Darrius Stewart lay dying on the property of New Direction Church in Memphis, Tennessee. You had black churches getting burnt down. You had Sandra Bland being arrested and assaulted on church ground. Hope AME Church down there in Perry View, University Drive. You had all this stuff happening in a 1 month period. That's terror. I ain't even talking about other things like they burned the church in Ferguson and stuff. I'm talking about in this 1 month, this year, this summer, you had all that hell going on with black churches, and there's not been a proper response from the black church. As a matter of fact, what's sad was that Minister Farrakhan was scheduled to speak at historic Mason Temple Church in Kojic. Church of God in Christ was started in Memphis, and Mason Temple was the headquarters for Kojic, or is the headquarters still, I guess, of Kojic. And Dr. King did his last speech at Mason Temple on April 3rd, 1968. As close we know, as history tells us, he was assassinated April 4th, 1968. Mr. Farrakhan wanted to speak because his justice or else is like a fulfillment, I guess, the uncompleted work of Dr. King in terms of the Poor People Campaign. Before Dr. King could go to D.C. for the Poor People's Campaign, he was assassinated by the state in Memphis, Tennessee, April 4th, 1968. And I believe that, Mr. Farrakhan has talked about his admiration for Dr. King and the suffering he went through to serve his people because he loved his people so. So I guess in a way he was trying to trace Dr. King's footsteps and put himself in that lineage. And he was denied the opportunity at the last minute. The powers that be got on the church people. I said the powers that be, not the church powers that be, because they had no power. They had power, they would let Farrakhan speak. They would have let him speak at Mason Temple. But the white powers that be got on the church folks and said, if you let this Farrakhan speak, we're gonna cut off your FBI money, faith-based initiative money, FBI money. Way to destroy the black church, compromised by the state, because the civil rights movement was successful because you had a lot of people with Rev in front of their name before you had PhD behind their name. So this was a movement led by the black church. And you look at it from a historical standpoint, the black church has always been pivotal in social justice movements for black people. But you look at it now, you fast forward to 2015, Black Lives Matter movement and all this stuff's going on with police brutality. The black church has been silent. Now people said, well, I got my pastor. I said, yeah, you got individuals, but you don't really have the institution backing these movements or have becoming an outlet or a platform for the voiceless. And they're very silent and deadly silent, and it's costing black lives. But anyway, they rescinded, they disinvited Minister Farrakhan. He told us he even wanted to lay a wreath at Mother Emanuel in Charleston, and he was disinvited. And it doesn't surprise me because Charleston's a scary ass place. When I say scary, I mean black folks have a scary mindset. South Carolina, black folks are very scared. But black folks are scared everywhere, but you got certain levels of scariness, or scarediness. Let me say scarediness. And them people are full of fear. So you gotta understand that Mother Emanuel was the same church where Denmark Vesey founded, and he was hanged along with his co-conspirators for allegedly trying to start an insurrection, which included Haiti. And so after they captured him and hanged him, they burned the church down. And so the church had to met for years, secretly. It's a lot of crazy shit that we put up with. We the only group of people I know of that really just put up with this stuff for a long, long time. And it's just like everybody else got their head scratched. And not even white folks, I can actually understand and appreciate white folks' fear. Because they do know something. In spite of them pleading ignorance, they do know that black folks should want to get revenge on white people. I mean, when they was afraid of Barack Obama and said, he might, start a race war. He might want revenge for what we did to black people. At first, it's funny with the media. They said Barack Obama wasn't black enough to be president. I said, what president was ever black enough? Even Warren G. Harding wasn't black enough to be president then. What president ever been black enough to be president? I mean, they made all these stupid laws, and we went along with it. Black folks went along with it. We was saying, Barack Obama, he ain't black enough. I said, what president is black enough? Bill Clinton wasn't black enough. Okay, and it's been proven. And if he was black enough, he was a self-hating black person, the perfect type of person for a system of white supremacy racism. So what I'm saying is that we let them control the narrative. We let them tell us what chairs we could sit in. This is bullshit, people. Get a grip of reality. Get some testicular fortitude, like Brother Minister said. So, yes, he was disinvited from the Reflame thing in Charleston. Then he was disinvited, from speaking at Mason Temple. And you wonder why Memphis is at where it's at. Lack of leadership. A lot of churches, but not a lot of leaders. Not enough leaders. Very passive. Very lethargic. Sleepy time down south. Yes. Sleepy time down south. Very sleepy. Very lethargic. Very tiring. This is sad about Memphis. But the thing about Memphis, God working in mysterious ways. And this Darrius Stewart thing is a beast. But get back to the minister. Yes. Great message, standing room only. Impressive. And actually I wanted to give a minister a plaque, We All Be Artivist Lifetime Achievement Award by my organization. Because, it was also noted that, Mayor Harrington, the former mayor of Memphis, the first black elected mayor of Memphis, he was on the stage on the dais with Minister Farrakhan. And Minister Farrakhan talked about in his speech at Kennedy Center on Thursday night how, Mayor Harrington gave him the key to the city back in '92. This is 3 years before the March on Washington. This is like, around the time, L.A. riots and all this other stuff. And, Mr. Farrakhan was known, they looked at him as being a demagogue, a charlatan. And a lot of people still do to this day. But Mayor Harrington had the testicular fortitude to give this brother the key to our city of good abode, Memphis, Tennessee. And it was the white power brokers that were trying to intimidate or bully Mayor Harrington to take the key back from Farrakhan. And he refused. Not only did he refuse, he said, "You can go to hell. You can go to hell. You can go to hell." That's what he said. And that's a man, all right? And so he got a standing ovation. Minister Farrakhan was happy. But then when Minister said, when I brought the key back and tried to open the door, they changed the locks. Mr. Farrakhan was so good. So, yeah. So I was trying to meet with Farrakhan when he was down here. I tried to reach out to people, let them know that, hey, I got a plaque, a Lifetime Achievement Award I want to present to Minister Farrakhan. I know I emailed them beforehand, all this stuff. He said, well, cool. But they would not allow me to meet with Farrakhan. And all I wanted was just a short photo op. Sometimes I look at, he took the selfies with these people. He taking pictures with everybody. And even some of the Fruit of Islam, they took selfies with Farrakhan. And yet they would not let me meet with Farrakhan. And what's funny about it, when I first came into the hip hop meeting that Farrakhan had, the Fruit of Islam, they would recognize, hey, you brother run for We All Be. I know about you, brother. You do good work. I said, all these brothers recognize me. I said, wow. I said, they must have been following me, or I guess I was a security risk or something. I don't know. But they didn't really appreciate my work. But all I wanted was just a photo op and a chance to present him this award, and they couldn't give me that. Now, some of the brothers and sisters were working on that, but it was interesting, man. Like, it was frustrating. But at the same time, when I was at the Cannon Center, I talked to his itinerary person, his secretary, and he said, Farrakhan don't have time. I said, okay. But I look at Facebook, I see it's a different story, but whatever. But it might be a chance. I might, maybe God got a better situation for me to present Mr. Farrakhan with this award, which I plan to do in the very near future. But he said I could sit down near the stage. I couldn't sit on the first row to hear the minister, but I could sit on the second row. So that's one of the best seats in the house. And I ended up sitting next to, of all people, Brother Hollis Watkins. You know who Hollis Watkins is? You need to Google that name. Hollis Watkins is a Mississippi freedom fighter, civil rights icon, and legend. Phenomenal singer. I did not know that he was a Muslim of the NOI. I didn't know he was a member of the Nation of Islam. And he told me he was a proud member of the Nation of Islam since 1970. I said, wow. When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was still around. And he was with his beautiful wife. I mean, they like brothers and sisters. They look so much alike. Two peas in a pod. And I took a picture with these people. Wonderful people. A very patient wife. And I talked to Brother Hollis Watkins for almost 30 minutes about his good friend, dear friend, the passing of Julian Bond. Talk about the misconceptions about the civil rights movement, about everybody think y'all was nonviolent, which was not true. And we talked about Minister Farrakhan, the greatness of Farrakhan, and also the excitement for Justice A.L.'s. We touched upon a little bit of everything. Matter of fact, that interview is available at the We All Be TV YouTube channel. It just came out today. So you might want to check that out. It's very informative. It's a 20-minute interview, very insightful. So it worked out. I was able to sit next to this guy who's who I respect immensely. Because people say, you know who it is? That's Hollis Watkins. And he reminded me his calm demeanor. He's very quiet and calm and patient. He got he's short in stature, physical stature, but he's tall in terms of legacy. And he reminds me of Elijah Muhammad. He just had that very unassuming, very, quiet way of knowing, and a quiet confidence. You could tell he was a powerful figure the way he just radiates such love and compassion. So I really enjoyed talking to Brother Watkins. I was very much a good treat for me. So I said, well, I couldn't get to Farrakhan this time, and I ended up meeting Brother Ishmael Muhammad. Brother Ishmael Muhammad is the assistant minister to Minister Farrakhan. He's the second in command. He's one of Elijah Muhammad's 21 kids. And Ishmael, I call him the Prince of the Nation of Islam. He has such a cool demeanor, man. He's a man of the people, man. Like, he really, it's like he's very sincere in wanting to know people. Like, even though Minister Farrakhan was in a rush, they had to rush him out at the Cannon Center to get ready for departure. But Brother Ishmael hanged around, took pictures, took his time with people, talked to people who felt they had a need to talk to him. A very patient guy. I like his demeanor, very cool, collected customer, man. Remind me of his father in terms of his speaking patterns and stuff like that. And I could see him being, so I took a picture with him. He was cool. And I told him about my situation where I tried to get the plaque to the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. And he said, you want me to give it to you? You want me to give it to him? I said, no. He said, you gonna do it yourself, huh? I said, yeah. I'm determined to do it myself. And some sisters out there said, yeah, he's like, gonna do it himself. I said, I'm determined. If I can meet you, I'm close enough. I'm getting warmer. So I get a chance to take a picture with you. I'm getting warmer. And I gave him my card. He said, brother, I like this, man. And we all be in it to win it. I like that. So it's like, it was cool because I couldn't meet with Minister Farrakhan, but I actually met with his, possible successor, which is pretty cool. His intro, I took a picture with him, but I wanted to meet with the minister, and hopefully I'll get a chance to do it very soon. And I'll keep y'all updated on that, because I have no problem giving props to both Minister Farrakhan or Brother Malcolm X. Like, I actually gave a Lifetime Achievement Award to the Shabazz family on behalf of their father and their mother for the work they have done. And I think a lot of times we think that we can't, like, for example, I'm a Cowboys fan, and I know some Steelers fans. You know, and even though they are still a fan, I'm a Cowboy fan. We still like the NFL. We love the NFL. I don't love the NFL. I like the NFL. I like watching football, and they like the NFL. So what's the problem? What's the conflict? Football teams in a league that we both enjoy watching. Two black leaders, had some misunderstandings and whatever. Now, there's some things that Farrakhan have said in the past about Mr. Malcolm that he ain't gonna be able to live down regardless of all the good he does, because he said those things that were not taken out of context. You can look at actually the 1990 keynote address he did for Malcolm X City College in Chicago. I really enjoyed looking at that. I enjoyed watching a lot of his stuff, but he said things that wow, and he'll never be able to live it down. Also, he wrote things back then, 50 years ago, that he's not gonna be able to live down. But I know better. I know that in a system of white supremacy, racism, the white power structure ain't gonna let a black person be empowered to take care of their own, business like that. They ain't gonna let us. We might pull the trigger, but we the masterminds. You understand? They might have used quote unquote black brothers or black Muslims to pull the trigger on Brother Malcolm, and that's debatable as well too, according to Baba Dick Gregory. It was the CIA that killed Malcolm. They had people already, shooting downward, and if you look at the black Muslim brothers, they were shooting upward to the stage, but the bullets that hit Malcolm came from a downward angle, according to Baba Dick Gregory, who was a close friend of Brother Malcolm, and he said they had to sue to get those files open, and he said the CIA actually admitted to reading out the audible like a week or two before. And there's another disturbing thing about the Brother Malcolm assassination is that you had a black church still have a dance there that night. So you got Brother Malcolm X, one of the greatest minds and leaders and revolutionaries of the 20th century, being shot down, and in the same spot, just a couple hours later, you gonna have a dance sponsored by a black church. And if you don't believe me, just look up this information. It's available online. Well, I said people need to do their own research. So, with that said, Minister Farrakhan, he was at the Newark Mosque that day that Malcolm got hit, and I believe the alleged shooters came from the Newark Mosque or temple, rather. So some stuff that wow, but I commend him for going on TV with Malcolm's eldest daughter. She confronted him, even when Betty Shabazz met with Betty Shabazz at the Apollo Theater, when Quabilla Shabazz, another one of Malcolm's daughter, was accused of trying to hire a hitman to kill him. All this stuff is suspect because her boyfriend was a white man. He actually was FBI. See what I'm saying? I tell you about how the FBI hired the first black agent to neutralize Marcus Garvey, how they was involved in some of the civil rights code cases more than what they should have been on the wrong side. So they revisit again the same old song, same old play, different singers, the same old song. So I commend him for meeting with Betty Shabazz, but it's like, you look at the documentary called Brother Minister, and say how the nation deal with his traitors and all this stuff. So he had a lot of inflammatory rhetoric. But then it could be like, he was close to Malcolm because he was one of Malcolm's protege. His mannerisms, his style, that's all from Malcolm. He got the, like Dr. Manny Marable said in his book, he had a group of ministers in the Nation of Islam known as Malcolm's ministers. And Malcolm, of course, his stomping ground, his aunt and sister A.L.L lived in Roxbury in Boston. Louis Farrakhan is from Boston. It's from Roxbury, I believe. So, yeah. So that's something that I will encourage other folks to look into as well. Just don't take secondhand anything on that. Look at it too for yourself, and you make your own conclusion. But there's a lot of things. Like, for example, even the Black Panther Party. You look at Huey Newton, and people. I know Dick Gregory believes to this day that Huey Newton was an agent. Huey P. Newton was an agent, and then he was assassinated August 22nd, 1989, under questionable circumstances. That's Huey P. Newton. That's Black August, y'all. Once again, the co-founder of the Black Panther Party. And people say he was an agent, but I don't think he was the same after being in prison. I think maybe they had him under mind control to a certain degree. But like Bobby Seale said that Huey would always use drugs. He said the reason why the Black Panther Party broke up was because the Huey P. Newton was trying to take over the drug trade out in Oakland. It was a movie called The Mac. And it was shot in Oakland. Richard Pryor was in The Mac as a classic blaxploitation movie. And The Mac was based on the life of an actual gangster pimp out in Oakland. If I think of his name. It was actually a pimp out in Oakland. He was actually assassinated during the filming of The Mac. He was actually assassinated during the filming of The Mac. And I'm trying to think of his name. Max Julian played the lead, of course. Max Julian. We all know Max Julian. We all know who Max Julian is. But that's a classic blaxploitation film. And it was shot in Oakland. And he was assassinated during that time. I think his name was Davis. I think it's based on a guy named Davis. But that gets to a point where we can't allow the powers that be to tell us who can and cannot be our friends, who can and cannot be our heroes. It get to a point that we gotta take control as black people and take ownership over that fact. And it's very important, I think, that we talk about that type of stuff and really live our life to the fullest when it comes to that. It's like what Ozzie Davis did, Malcolm X eulogy. And he said that he was our shining black manhood. He said he was our shining black manhood, Malcolm X. He said our shining black prince. He was our manhood. And I look at Farrakhan, and Farrakhan is 82 years young, looking good for his age. To me, he is a form of our black manhood. He was allowed to live. Like we lost Malcolm and Martin King, Dr. King at 39 years old. We lost Medgar at 37. See, the enemies know that, this time when the black leadership is when they're in their 30s. This is when they attack you, like Steve Biko was attacking in his 30s. I said Medgar 37, Dr. King, Malcolm X 39. And even Fred Hampton was at 21. Can you imagine if Fred Hampton even lived as long as Dr. King and Malcolm, the damage he would have done to white supremacy racism? Can you imagine? Anyway, but the biggest thing about the Farrakhan visit that we should understand, the biggest thing about Justice or Else, the or else is the boycott. Boycott Christmas. That's the or else as far as I know. Boycott Christmas. So, but don't believe the hype in terms of white media. Like I said, they say it was several hundred people. It was actually well over 3,000 folks from around the region. But anyway, and also Mr. Farrakhan, to his credit, he talked about the recent Darrius Stewart killing in Memphis by the MPD, the Memphis Police Department. Darrius Stewart, like I said earlier in the podcast, he was killed on black church grounds, New Direction Church on Winchester Road here in Memphis, July the 17th, 2015, under questionable circumstances. Now, how can you justify, Darrius Stewart was the passenger in the car that was pulled over for a traffic stop by Officer Connor Schilling. He was just a passenger. His friend was driving the car. But the officer wanted to do a background check on Darrius, which is strange because you pulled the car over for a traffic stop involving the driver, and Darrius was just a passenger. So why would you need his ID or identification? My understanding that Darrius was taken out the car, put in a patrol car with no handcuffs on. And the friend was allowed to leave the scene to retrieve Darrius' identification. So he was allowed to leave the scene of the traffic stop, which is kind of weird. Why you let him leave the scene? Well, since Darius had died under questionable circumstances, it's like it was premeditated. Won't you think that the officer wanted him to leave the scene so he wouldn't have any witnesses or interference? So my understanding is that the officer drove Darrius from the spot of the traffic stop to the church property, New Direction Church. He found out that there was a warrant for Darrius' arrest that was issued by the state of Iowa on June 30th, 2015, which is questionable as well too. We'll get into that as well. And he said that when Colonel Schilling claimed that when he tried to handcuff Darrius, mind you, that Darrius was in the back seat of the patrol car, not handcuffed, and was driven away from the traffic stop. Where the hell did they do that at? How can the officer justify drive him away like that? It's crazy. You understand what I'm saying? So he claimed that when he tried to arrest or handcuff Darrius Stewart, that a fight broke out between him and Darrius. Now the officer Schilling is like about 6 feet, 6'2", over 200 pounds. Darius Stewart is somewhere between 5'4", or was somewhere between 5'4", 5'6", maybe 120 to 130 pounds, and he was asthmatic. So, who think gonna win that fight? So they was on the ground. We saw 25 seconds of them, on the ground with Colonel Schilling in the best of Darius Stewart, from what I can see of the footage. We have yet to see any footage turn up of the whole thing in its entirety. But that's more than Michael Brown ever had, in terms of him and Darren Wilson, that encounter. So, my understanding, Colonel Schilling, in fear of his life, pulls out his gun, not a taser, not mace, and shoot Darrius several times. Okay, so here we go. But then this is what the media does. Instead of focusing on just the weird happenings of their case, or the weird circumstances, like how that all came out, they want to character assassinate the victim. He's already dead physically, but they want to character assassinate him, claiming that he's a pedophile and a child molester. Now, my understanding, if you look at the older news story, they might have changed it because it's what they do. They do the damage. They didn't want to hide white supremacist media. They said that Darrius, at the age of 13, when in 2009, what the Iowa, warrant was based on was when he was back in 2009 when he was 13. He allegedly molested 2 boys, his cousin and his cousin's friend, around the age of 12. They were like around 12 years old. Now this is what they said, that his cousin and his cousin friend were about around 12. This is what the initial reports was. Now recently, in the last week, they had talked to Darrius Stewart's aunt, who filed the original claims back in 2009. She said now, and believe me when I say she's estranged from her sister, Darrius' mom. They are estranged. There's a family torn apart over this travesty, over this tragedy. And Irene McKinnon was interviewed by Fox 13 News in Memphis via the phone, and I have a hard time finding that interview. I found a summary of what the interviewer, said about what she said in the interview, but like Fox 13 News don't want to post that interview. But she was saying that her son and his friend was about 4 or 5 years old at the time. So they went from Darius Stewart's alleged, victims of child molestation, whatever. They went from being around 12 to being 4 or 5 years old this past week. And here's my thing. Darius Stewart never had his day in court. And all that is very questionable what did or did not happen back in 2009. Why did the state of Iowa wait to June 30th, 2015 to issue a warrant for Darius Stewart's arrest? If it's based on what happened when he was a minor in 2009, why did they not take care of that back in 2009, whatever that was? So we'll never know the truth. really, of what happened, because Darius can no longer speak or defend himself because he was taken out by a police officer. You know, which is, you know, sad. But here's the thing: black people are so concerned about what may or may not happen back in 2009. The story is not about the character and virtual Darrius Stewart as it relates to that issue. This is about what happened at a traffic stop that should never have happened, about him being a victim of police brutality. His character before July 17, 2015 should not play any bearing on what happened to him at the hands of Officer Connor Schilling, July 17th, 2015. Okay? See, we got the anniversary of Emmett killing coming up this week, the 60th anniversary. And this is the same tactic they ran on Emmett Till. They killed Emmett Till, they lynch him, then they want to lynch his character, lynch his name. You know, this is what they did in the murder trial for the, Boy Bryant and his brother, J.W. Malum, and their murder trial for Emmett Till. Senator James Eastland, the senator, the notorious white supremacist racist U.S. senator from Mississippi, Senator James Eastland, he actually unclassified some classified files and leaked them to the press back in the 50s about Emmett Till's father. The mother said the only way she could identify that was Emmett Till was by the ring with the initials LT, which stood for Louis Till. Louis Till's ring, her former husband's ring, or baby daddy. Louis Till was killed overseas during World War II by the United States government or army for allegedly raping and killing white women in Italy. That's the story, but we don't really know what the actual story is, because there were more black GIs probably put to death than white GIs over certain things under shady circumstances. Like I already talked about the Houston race riot that happened August 23rd in 1917, and there's no doubt in my mind that those black men who tried to defend themselves and their brother and their black womanhood were not given a fair trial in a system of white supremacy, racism. Because first and foremost, they didn't have a trial by jury of their peers, but that's another story. But getting back to Louis Till, they try to say that Emmett Till killing was justified because the fruit don't fall too far from the tree. If his father Louis Till was the type of man who was known for raping and killing white women, then who to say the son didn't have that genetic possibility as well? Maybe the brothers were doing us a favor by killing him before he got started. The story is that Emmett Till allegedly wolf whistled at Carolyn Bryant, Roy Bryant's wife, at the store. And, it got out and Roy Bryant was pissed. But somebody told me recently that Carolyn Bryant actually was hitting on Emmett Till. See, that's another part of the story I never heard. Somebody told me this recently. Brother Ron, I read that Carolyn Bryant was seeking out Emmett Till, that she was known for messing around with the brothers, so to speak. Folks say people say the darndest things. I don't know what to make of it. But Carolyn Bryant knows, and she's not talking. She's not talking to nobody. And to me, people say, well, she got away with murder. I said, no, she didn't. Because she's been a prisoner for the last 60 years of what happened on August 28th, 1931. She's a prisoner of that. They said she was present. A female voice was heard identifying Emmett Till the night they went over his great uncle Moses Wright house. It was a female voice. I think Moses Wright even said he heard a female voice, and quite possible Carolyn Bryant, and she should be in jail right now actually, but they couldn't prove, like the black prosecutor in Mississippi. The FBI did their, they did the FBI once again. They knew who did it for years, but the FBI, they reopened the case. They did the research, and they thought, from my understanding, from my sources, that she was going to be indicted. That Carolyn Bryant was going to be indicted, but the black prosecutor, I forgot the sister's name, she did not indict Carolyn Bryant, to the disappointment of some of the officials in the FBI. And this is my issue. It's funny to me. Black folks are afraid to do anything to old ass white supremacist racist people. But a lot of us don't have any problems beating up our black freedom fighter elders. That's another story. I'm not gonna. That's all I'm gonna say. But getting back to Emmett Till and all this other stuff. So they dirt up Emmett Till's name in the media. They used the white power media in Mississippi to dirt up his name. It was a white politician, James Eastland, who leaked the information about his father. We don't really know if it's true or not. There's a lot to that story. But they basically made Louis Hill and his son's story and made them one person, one and the same. Like father, like son. And so that's one of the reasons why Brian and his brother, J.W. Malam, was able to walk away innocent. I mean, they know they wasn't innocent, but they was declared by the jury as being not guilty, which they were guilty as hell because they confessed for, like, well, my understanding was $100,000 from Look magazine to William Bradford Huey, the journalist. So I say all this to say, this is the same song with different singers. The same fucking song with different singers. We come to Darrius Stewart, they're trying to character assassinate him. Okay, the reason why they do this type of stuff, because they know that black people's psyche are weak. As a collective, we are very weak right now. We are very weak in our mind. Now, as individuals, we could be strong, but as a collective, we are weak. We coming from a weak, because white folks, we probably know the reason why you want to know why they know that is because the hands up don't shoot stuff. That's ridiculous. When I hear young black people say my blackness is not a weapon, that's ridiculous. Your blackness is a weapon, but the problem is it's been used against you for years and centuries and generations because you're afraid to use it for your own gain. You know, like the brothers who got killed in the Houston race riot of 1917, on August 23rd, when they tried to defend their brother and their sister. They brought judgment down on the city of Houston. They shot up a lot of white police officers and white people. And no white person was ever charged with anything of violating any black person's civil or human rights in that whole thing. He had 19 black men who worked for Uncle Sam being hanged. He had over 40 of them sent to prison for life. They served their country. And their country couldn't even serve them with the decency and respect of being men. Their rights was non-existent. They did not have a fair trial. It was black folks back in the 40s and stuff. They were finding black men in Mississippi in full uniform in rivers and lakes and stuff, been lynched. You know, the great civil rights freedom fighter, Mississippi freedom fighter, M.Z. Moore, had to write to the State Department to help them investigate why so many brothers in uniform was found dead in waterways and stuff of Mississippi. As soon as he started his letter writing campaign, the silent terrorism against brothers in uniform stopped or did it. A brother named Isaac Woodward, a decorated World War II veteran. He was blinded by a sheriff in South Carolina. And it was a national outcry. This is back in the 40s. People like Orson Welles, even a white supremacist like Harry Truman was pissed off at what happened to the soldier. He got a lifetime pension from the NACP, but the sheriff was never punished for blinding Isaac Woodward. And that sheriff died in the last 10 or 15 years. Never went to jail or punished. What I'm saying is, there's a universal law too. Just because man law or Caesar law does not enforce his own laws or is fair in his judgment, God, the Most High, has the final say. So like I said with Carolyn Bryan, a lot of us think that she got away with it, but she didn't get away with it. She's being punished right now because she's a prisoner of her own making. She can't go to the place she want to go. I remember when Ed Bradley tried to interview her at her home. She was afraid to come outside the house. Her son came home and was trying to intimidate Ed Bradley, but Ed Bradley, he don't play. He don't scared black man. He wasn't a scared black man. He ain't playing that. And you think about what happened to the Roy Bryant and his brother J.W. when they started bragging about killing Emmett Till. They lost the support of the black community. They stopped going to their grocery store. say it was driven out of business because black folks stopped supporting that grocery store. And then they were driven out of the community by white people. Because the white folks said, you know what, just despicable white trash. How y'all gonna brag about it? You know what I'm saying? We let y'all off, but y'all gonna brag about it now? Making us look bad. So the white and black folks said to hell with the bride and Milan. And they had to leave the Mississippi Delta. J.W. Milan, I believe he died of cancer back in 1980. And Roy Bryant died of cancer, I believe, in 1990. But I can never forget the 30th anniversary of Emmett Till, which was covered by the Clarion Ledger. And also, you had like the morning shows, like the network morning shows. They tracked down Roy Bryant, and he was afraid to be on TV to be interviewed. He was fearing for his life. But I remember reading the Clarion Ledger 30th anniversary of the Emmett Till travesty, and they tracked Roy Bryant to the Mississippi Delta, his beloved Mississippi Delta. And he owned a store. And I think they ran him off to Texas. He came back, and he was divorced from Carolyn Bryant at that time. And he was running a grocery store in Mississippi. And I remember reading, I'm going to paraphrase it. He basically told the reporter, you know, black people, Negroes today, are not afraid as they were like in 1950 something. But the only difference between now and then is that they don't know who I am. Because if they knew who I was, I would be a dead man. So this is what's killing black folks right now. Yes, we might have all these technological advantages. We might have all these opportunities, but lack of knowledge of self, lack of history, lack of an understanding of why things are the way they are today is going to be a nail in the coffin for us if we don't change this way of thinking, of being. We really got to step our game up, people. Now's the time. It's now or never for black people right now. Justice or else. So, you know, with the Darrius Stewart thing, do not fall for that trick of, you know, this guy, this and that. See how they dirt up his name? See how they trying to assassinate him? See how they lynch his name? See how they use other black folks to do their dirty work? Because even when Emmett Till, we now know that maybe upwards to 10 or 14 people participated in the lynching of Emmett Till. And we know a lot of those people were black people. Matter of fact, if you go to my We All Be YouTube channel, I interviewed Johnny B. Thomas, who's the mayor of Glendora, been the mayor of Glendora, Mississippi since the 80s. His father allegedly participated in the lynching of Emmett Till. This is a black man. He broke down the psyche of a black person back then, and he made some very valid points because now he got to deal with the sins of his father. This is something that has stained him and his family for years, for generations now. But, you know, he started the Emmett Till Intrepid Center or Interpretation Center down in the facility where the cotton gin that was used to weigh Emmett Till down in the river was produced, I believe. So I had a conversation with him a couple of years ago. You know, a lot of people seen that, you know. And so, once again, here we are. Here we are. There's so much things going on, so many things going on right now. And I just want people to stay up on what's going on and to be the best person they could be. And words of the great Duke Ellington, we love you all madly. Keep on producing and pushing. This is kind of like a short show, a short show. I'll be back on tomorrow and the rest of this week. And I look forward to hearing from you all. So if you like what you heard today, please feel free to subscribe, to promote, to donate. Donate via our PayPal link, or you can send a money order to our P.O. Box. And all the information will be available in this video and in this podcast. If you look at this on our podcast channel, all the information is in the subscription box. If you look at this at YouTube, all the information is in the subscription box. But once again, the words of great Duke Ellington, we love y'all madly. Keep on producing and pushing.